Hi everybody, my name is Matt Lyons. I'm the Executive Director of TREAD. And to my right,
I'm Michael McLean. I'm the Charles Program Manager for Evergreen Mountain Bike Alliance, Washington.
Thanks, Mick and Yvonne. I was the former executive director at Evergreen, no longer here, so I can say whatever I want in this presentation. I don't represent Evergreen, I'm just joking. I've worked on this project for 10 years, and so I'm happy to be back here talking for Evergreen about the process for No2 Canyon.
so the picture that you're looking at right there, that was a 100-person work party. The largest work party I've ever been a part of. It was pretty amazing. Kind of just, it demonstrates the community's enthusiasm about this place. There is Travis Hornby. I'm going to give a little shout out to Travis. Travis is a city council member here in Wenatchee. He also runs PIBUS, where you'll be tonight for the award ceremony. And he is a former Central Washington chapter president. A lot of the work that went into No2 Canyon was mostly can be attributed to Travis. So we'll give him a shout out tonight if you see him at the party. Basically, I'm here to tell you how it got started. So, hi, I'm Matt Lyons. I'm a recovering illegal trail builder. There were, I want to say 4 or 5 of us that were maybe putting tools in the dirt without permission in the No2 Canyon area about 20 years ago. And this was back when every time a helicopter or an airplane would fly over, we'd get next to a tree thinking they're looking for us. They weren't. And so what we had is we had a community of mountain bikers that wanted more access to trails and wanted those trails to be designed with mountain bikes in mind. We found out really quickly with the Forest Service that they didn't want us doing that in an unsanctioned way. So we'd go out and build trails, and then those trails would get torn up. We'd go out and build trails again, and those trails would get put back to bed. It went back and forth like that for years, and then we decided, maybe we should organize, and maybe we should do it the right way. So that was when we became the first chapter of Evergreen. Central was the first chapter. Now there are 8 across the state, which is kind of awesome. And what we did is we had to prove to the Forest Service that we would stop or discourage the illegal stuff. We would organize and do it the right way, and we would also take care of this place. So the idea was, where can we do this that's low, front country, close to town? And No2 Canyon was the place that we landed on. It's only a 20-minute drive from here. The community has just bought into it, and the access is amazing. The trail system now is amazing. Some of you got to ride it on Thursday. It's freaking fantastic. That's what it is. So No2 Canyon is already designated non-motorized. That was a designation for that area already, so it was easy to take that non-motorized approach and develop this entire area. No2 Canyon is right in the middle between Mission Ridge Trail System and Land Trust, Sage Hills Trail Systems here in town, so it makes a really nice connector in the middle. And that was the whole idea, is we could develop this and then connect to the other lands adjacent to it. We, with our agreement with the forest, came to the conclusion that we would start with rehab first. So there was a lot of dumping and trash that was going on up there. Some kids like to party up there. There were 4x4 trails, all that stuff. So by offering to put those back, rehab those, and then build new, we came up with a kind of a nice friendly partnership there. And then it was like, okay, now what? How do we go get the money for this? Which I won't talk about. That's what these guys are going to talk about. So by doing that, what we did is we met the needs of the community, because everybody wanted these trails, and everybody was willing to work on those trails. We all volunteer. No paid staff, no paid trail builders at this point. That's all our words. TJ Broom, if you know TJ, he's now at the regional office. He he was on the Wenatchee River Ranger District in rec, and he was really the Forest Service impetus for this plan. And I think that's important. It's not just, you know, anyone in the Forest Service or anyone from Evergreen. It's finding those people that have a passion and a desire to do the hard work, because it was a lot of hard work to convince his bosses and his colleagues that this was the right thing to do. So think about it. You're going to let a bunch of illegal trail builders go out there and build trails, and they're saying they're going to take care of it, right? And the Forest Service doesn't need any more work. But we convinced them that it was a good thing. We got a challenge cost share agreement in place, and we took off with RCO funding and the community support. What else can I say about that? This is the location on the earth. So, let's see here. You've got, there we go. Oh no. Oh no, Nick. Let's try this again. So here's No2 Canyon. This is the Sage Hills Trail System. Here we are in Wenatchee. Devil's Gulch, Mission Ridge, Sculpture State Park, and then if we pop over, here's Nanum State Forest Trail System. So the whole idea is to connect from north to south, and you could literally ride probably until you couldn't ride because you're tired, right? Why number 2? It's unique. It's so close to town, but it has so many different zones. So there's a beautiful meadow, there's aspen trees, there's a healthy forest of trees, there's terrain and elevation changes, there's space for everyone. Here's a couple of pictures. So, I mean, that rock feature right there, we put the trail right next to it. It is unique. It's amazing. There's people that stand on top of it and video their friends going underneath it. There's all kinds of technical aspects to the terrain and the rocks. And so we had to use natural terrain features. That was part of the agreement. No fasteners, no manufactured lumber. So anywhere we could find a rock, we tried to use it. Anywhere we could find a log, we tried to use it. And then if you go up there, it is just gorgeous. The views are insane. You're looking back down on the Columbia River for miles and miles and miles, the wildlife. And if you go up there today, you will see everyone from a 3-year-old to an 80-year-old. And they're just enjoying the place. And it really spreads you out too, which is one of the things I like the most about that. You can go up there and see 50 cars, but you'll probably see 4 people the entire day, because there's so much variety and so many places to expand. We definitely had a stacked loop trail system in mind when we planned it out, and that was important, to have a beginner loop close to the parking lot, access for families and kids, easy green circle type trails. The middle loop, you get a little bit more rowdy, a little blue square, maybe some berms, maybe some roots that were purposely left, and then we now have 2 very black trails that are big. They're too big for me, but they're not too big for everybody. So the whole system allows you to progress as your skills progress. So Brad Hawkins, Senator Hawkins, Keith Gaynor, County Commissioner, they supported this work. Took 8 years of planning effort, 5,000 hours of volunteer labor, and 1,100 unique volunteers. I think that just kind of demonstrates that the community really needed this, the community wanted it, and the community was ready to come out and do it. Let's see, what else can I show you? Is that it? Am I done? You're looking at me. Come on.
I can take over it.
Yes, thank you.
All right, Matt. Thank you. I'll see if I can make this work. So again, my name's Yvonne. This project was the first partnership agreement or co-op agreement I ever signed with the Forest Service. So I was brand new at Evergreen. We had the opportunity to build this brand new system. And I dove right in. And so I wanted to share kind of the story of the phasing that we did with the Forest Service agreements,
And the analogy I've been using lately is, you know, Matt talked about this, you've got stacked loops, you've got progression and skill building, all these opportunities built into a network, and we did that through a series of stacked contracts, right? So we identified a number of different funding sources and different ways of contracting and doing cost share agreements with the Forest Service to make this all come together. So Matt talked a bit about the characteristics and what made this site so perfect for a build out of a mountain bike priority trail network. I want to clarify that, yes, it was driven by the mountain bikers, but it's also a multi-use trail network. So to build on some of the benefits that we knew would happen, as well as building on the need that we had in the community, some of the social and economic benefits, just again, the proximity to town, the ability to bring ADA facilities in as well because it was so close to town. As long as we could get the road fixed into the system, there's a lot of opportunity there with some old infrastructure that could be reused for ADA access, and an area that was flatter where ADA access would also be accommodated as well from a recreation perspective. There was an increasing need for community meetings, events. Evergreen itself hosts kids camps, youth dirt camps, and we need more places to bring the kids out to ride. So we knew that that would have both a social and an economic benefit for the community, for the town. And then just getting kids outdoors, you all know how important that is. We also built on the strong community connections to get local lumber donated, a local construction firm donated both materials, expertise, and money. So this was 100% a community-driven project. So here's how we met the need and what we identified to the RCO at the time as some key criteria on why this project deserved funding. Jesse Sims is here. Jesse, thank you again. Huge thanks to the RCO to make that stacked contract opportunity possible, because what the RCO did is build on existing investments and seeing the progress as well as the vision come together from A to Z. And if we didn't have the ongoing opportunity to every other year or so apply for these consecutive RCO grants, we wouldn't have been able to finish this. So huge thanks to the RCO. Huge thanks to the Forest Service. Forest Service is not at this table. They should be, but Les, who worked with me most on this project and with our team, has retired in the meantime. We miss him a lot, but huge shout out to the Forest Service as well. Kyle, thank you. So here's how we brought a vision from scope summary to reality. You know, almost 30 miles of trails, it's amazing. Different loops, different types. Mick is going to talk about that. Mick's working on the final phase of this project right now. So yes, very much mountain bike oriented, but absolutely multi-use trail. And anytime I go up there, there are just as many hikers and dog walkers as there are bikers in this system. So mountain bike PMO can accommodate a lot of different options, opportunities, design opportunities to accommodate multiple users. We onboarded 5 miles of the trails that Matt built while he was hiding behind a tree from the authorities. We did bring 5 miles of existing trail on board. They were in the right location, built well, and the Forest Service could adopt them by going through the process. So 5 miles onboarded that were already there, and then decommissioned 9.5 miles of trail in areas where the trails shouldn't have been, either in sensitive areas or along creeks or in creek beds. There, what we knew we couldn't onboard them as is. So those got decommissioned. There's quite a bit of environmental restoration that happened along the way as well. And then a huge part of this, as Matt also showed you on the map, was connectivity, right? Like one of the key opportunities for this trail system is it's close to town, but if you want to go to distance, you can. And was it 2 summers ago, Mick, we finished Mission Creek? We created a restoration effort that also benefited bull trout habitat by connecting or redoing an existing trail and connecting this to Mission Ridge, so that connectivity vision is also happening already. Mick will tell you about all the details on the community gathering spaces and the programming and the kids' education opportunities that are also now available. And then I wanted to talk about this modern sustainable trail network. The Forest Service has been engaged in a number of discussions and efforts for what is a sustainable trail system and what programs or plans do we put in place to both create, develop, or design systems into modern sustainable trail networks. And so I was engaged in the process in the Gifford Pinchot. Ryan, is Ryan here? No? But there is a lot of discussion about what is a modern sustainable trail network, and I kept saying, use number 2. Use number 2. Like, I do think that this, from a scope, the comprehensiveness of the trail system, the type of trail, the way it was built, the environmental and habitat improvement activities that were included in this, as well as the kids and youth potential programming in the future, makes this an absolutely comprehensive model for other trail networks that accommodate a lot of different users. And I think it's really important to mention that when we went into that, we wanted a high-quality user experience for the mountain bike community, but it is absolutely intended and designed to meet a very high-quality user experience for the other users that go there. So it was constantly in our minds and in our lens that it had to be a comprehensive planning effort, where Evergreen, for example, assisted with, Nick did a lot of work on building the shelter. We're not a construction firm, but in order to make this project and place comprehensive, the shelter needed to be there, so we built it, right? So we went out of what we normally do as a 501c3 in the trail building world as well, and went above and beyond. So there you go. I think it's an example of excellence in recreation site development, and that's why we wanted to share it. The most remarkable thing is, though, that we have a shelter, 2 CXTs, 26-something miles of trail, and the total cost, this is hard cost, not soft cost, not the hours of the Forest Service, discussions, emails, whatever else went into it. This is just the forced labor account, and the funds from the RCO and TRED was just over $1.2 million, or $1.1 million, almost to $1.2 million. So think about that, right? 25 miles of trail, all these facilities, and we spent just over $1 million. So huge thanks to everybody who rolled up their sleeves. We couldn't have done it with the enormous amount of volunteer effort either. So here's our stacked contract system, right? So we designed this to be able to get continuity in construction and not have any downtime. That was the hope. I wasn't part of what I call phase 0. That planning, vision, and NEPA work was done before my time by the Forest Service. Matt was part of that. Travis, who you saw earlier, part of that Forest Service staff. But that was a lot of locking in the vision, and then Evergreen came in and really made that vision come to reality by looking at these funding options. So we started in 2018, phase 1, 8.5 miles and infrastructure on the site, funded by the Forest Service, RCO, and Evergreen through our fundraising arm and fundraising campaigns and local community donations. Once that was complete, we did not go back to the RCO for a second phase in the next contract cycle, so we decided that we would do everything we could to fundraise and keep the crew on the site. So we did a huge Give Big campaign here locally. The local hospital donated to it, local businesses donated to it, and we got just enough funds to keep our crew basically busy. We didn't make any money on it, right? We spent the kitty on it, but it allowed us to keep building without a break. And that generates the community momentum and the excitement amongst the donors that, hey, I donated $1, and 1 year later, I'm riding a trail, I'm donating it again. And we wanted to make sure that we didn't lose momentum. So phase 3 was the last cycle that we actually just really finished it. And that was 6 miles of trail as well as infrastructure. A CXT went in. And the shelter went in. Shelter was phase 3, right?
Yep.
Shelter was phase 3. And then right now we are in the final phases of the current grant round. A lot of the work still needs to be done, but we're in phase 4. So 1 year from now, the system will be 100% complete. Okay, 2 years. Well, hurry up. So quite a bit of work, and if you look at it in a pretty compressed time frame, considering the scope of the project. So I'm just going to go through a couple of maps to give you a sense of, we built stacked loops. We stacked this vision into a number of different bite-sized contracts so that we knew we could deliver and that we knew we could raise enough funds to support each one of these phases. And that would also give us just enough time that if for some reason RCO decided not to fund us and we didn't score high enough, we had enough time to then pursue other funding sources. So the timeline was sort of set up with 2-year buffers to be able to pursue funding, support, and donations. So there you go. Here's phase 1, started close in, kind of tackled the high-level trails, and Nick, feel free to jump in here if there's a few things to note about these trails or the phases. But also started off with quite a bit of decommissioning right from the get-go, to kind of get the people to recreate where they should be recreating and out of the areas where they shouldn't be. So that's phase 1, about 2 years. That was our first RCO grant, just $86K, but a huge amount of investment influx for our central chapter here. So that got us going. We hired our crews, and from that point out, we really basically had a dedicated trail crew, a professional trail crew, working alongside the volunteers who had already been working there for quite a while. So it was the impetus for Evergreen to really get a professional crew going. Continued volunteer hours. I mean, again, you saw the size of the work parties. I came to those work parties. They're not only fun, but we rolled up our sleeves and got a lot done. Phase 2, another 2 years. Evergreen fully funded that through our donations. When I say the $20K, that's hard cash that may have paid for tools, refreshments, whatever it may be, crew gear, but that on top of that, we had all of our volunteer work, which I did not put a value on here. Jesse knows that, it's submitted in the reports to you, but so a huge amount of volunteer effort here. And then the Forest Service continued to support us with the forest waiver account. So without that, again, that collaboration and the partnership with the Forest Service, we wouldn't have been able to make this happen. I think by that time, and I hope I'm right in this, because who knows, but I think by that time, Evergreen had made the case and the point to the Forest Service that we would do good work, quality trail, without much supervision needed from the Forest Service, so that there's trust. And that trust had been built over time, but it really allowed us to say, hey, you can trust us as a trail building organization. We had several check-ins. I would come to those check-ins and listen to the feedback we received from the Forest Service staff. What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? And for the most part, by that time, the feedback I was getting was really positive. So I hope that Evergreen, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I hope that Evergreen at that point sort of proved its point that we are making problems go away for the Forest Service, and we were very much a trusted partner. Habitat was being improved, recreationists are going where they're supposed to be going, and we're working to help eliminate them from the places that they shouldn't be. So the site was getting cleaned up, the site was getting formalized, signs were going in, TRED supported materials. With each phase, we built on the previous one. We stayed on track, we delivered in budget, we delivered our grant obligations, I hope, and kept decommissioning and then building in the places where we needed to. And then phase 3 really is where things just tied together. TRED helped us with a huge amount coming in from the feds to help repair the road to the site. So now the site is more accessible. The county assisted with that. It was really just a significant community vision. Matt, feel free to jump in if I missed something there. And then here's where we are now, and I'll let Nick take over here because he's directing and overseeing all of the work there. We're on our final RCO grant. This is the final one. and then tread and evergreen continue to match at just greater and greater increments. So, any questions so far from Matt or myself before we dive into the details? Yeah.
You say where people shouldn't be. What determined what should be decommissioned and where people shouldn't be? What are those details?
Yeah, just simply habitat area, sensitive habitat where recreation was happening, where we wanted to protect water quality, for example, recreation happening within riverbed area or stream, I should say. So that was mostly it, sensitive habitat and areas that might be more prone to erosion or water quality issues. Yeah.
So you touched early on in the presentation about, so before you ever started building trail, you're decommissioning, but you're also, touched on the restoration, the habitat, then you talked about fire treatment. I mean, so were you working collaboratively with the Forest Service? They were prescribing burns to do things when you're bringing it back to the state it should be, or?
Yes, but you two are the ones to talk about that. Yes. Can Nick answer that?
Yeah.
He's taking over anyway. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, I can answer that a little. We actually, it's funny because I last Friday had a hour-long conversation with Ben Merrick from the Forest Service, and we do work together on how and where the prescribed burns are going to happen up there, and letting the public know about that. So we're going to be doing they're going to be doing some prescribed burns up there here shortly, in fact. So, yeah, so on phase 4, where we're at now, we'll be looking at starting this. I updated this slide with the appropriate time frame. 2025 to 2026 is going to be the time frame for it. It is going to be our largest phase that we've done. There is a lot going into it. Pretty much everything we did in phase 3, which was a bunch of infrastructure and a couple trails, it's the same as that. More infrastructure, more trails, and then also a skills park, a mountain bike skills park for progression from complete beginner all the way to advanced progression for drops and slabs and jumps. I'm going to point out something. So on this map, up here, some people call this 4 corners. I call this 5 corners because there's actually, as you can see, there's 5 little intersecting roads here. This is going to be the site of the next trailhead, and up there we will have another vault toilet. There'll be another 18 parking spots. Some of those are trailer pull-through, ADA access, as well as this is instead of where the current new parking lot is right in here. That's called Martin's Ranch parking lot. That is specifically, this is really for non-motorized use. This parking lot, however, right here will have trailer pull-throughs, not just for equestrian use, but also for motorcycle use, because as you go down this direction, this is all in the Mission Creek drainage, and that is all motorized use. So it'll allow access and take some of the trailhead congestion that's happening at Sand Creek, as well as Lower Devils away for that. So phase 4, it includes increased trail mileage for mountain bikers, includes full range of trail types. The major trails going in for this one, there's 2 major trails going in. This one up here, this is a kind of a bi-directional tech trail. So tech meaning natural features, rocks, little undulations, and as you climb, a little bit more tougher if you're trying to climb it. A little bit easier if you're going down, obviously. You have the assistance of gravity. And then we'll be completing our last Black Diamond Trail. So these 3 trails here are the advanced trails. This one here that went in during phase 3. This one right here is phase 1. And then this one here in the middle, this will be phase 4. For the Princess Bride fans out there, these are My Name is Inigo Montoya. This one is I Killed Your Father. And the last one is Prepare to Die. We also have As You Wish and Inconceivable. I did not name the trails.
I did.
So yeah, this will end up completing the 2 new staff loop options. So we've built everything or brought into all of these trails that now go all the way up to Horse Lake Mountain. And there's a variety of ways come down, beautiful views off of Eye Candy, hence the name, gives you a great view of Mount Rainier when you're at the top. And as well as Sundance, which is this long stretch along the ridgeline here. And you can just drop in all kinds of places to come right back down into the parking lot. The Stills Park area, which is going to be going in here, discuss. Has anyone here been to number 2? How many of you know where the picnic shelter is? All right, so if you know where the picnic shelter is, which is indicated right here, that's where the Stills Park's going in. There's a nice little hill there, and we're going to utilize that terrain, that gentle terrain in that area, and provide trails that are going to not only be for beginners, but we're going to be building the outer loops of those trails as well as some of the trails up and over them at around 48 to 60 inches to allow for adaptive mountain biking as well. Back to the picnic shelter here, possibly a CXT. I gotta talk to Mason about that. It's part of what we want. And the chapter does want to go forward with raising funds for it. Oops. As I mentioned, phase 4 is definitely our largest one so far. Just to break down the cost on phase 4, RCO Nova grant for $185,000, and then the chapter with Forest Service funds from their match, as well as LTAC and Volunteer will come to as you can see, close to $200,000. So it's a big chunk, but it's also, again, lots of facilities, 2 new trails, as well as the Stills Park. So we were talking about this stuff earlier. This is what was done in phase 3. So this is the new CXT that went up at the trailhead, at the Martin's Ranch trailhead, as well as the kiosk that we built. That kiosk, I invite anyone to go up there and look at it and see it's the most overbuilt kiosk you'll ever find. I don't know how I got the plans for this, but there are 13 trusses in that. It's designed to withstand 20 feet of snow over average for Washington Pass. So, and if you go up and look at the picnic shelter, you'll also notice that it is definitely sturdy. But this is an example of the architecture that we have going in up there. We will be doing another kiosk up at the new trailhead up at 4 corners, 5 corners. We had, I don't know if we're going to go quite that big. The Forest Service themselves have even said, like, yeah, it might have been going a little bit too far. Right, Kyle?
It looks gorgeous.
It does look gorgeous. It's an amazing looking kiosk. We'll finish up the signage up there. Right now, we have pretty much all of the trails have been signed. There are a few of the newer ones that do not have signage yet. I have been back and forth with Rock Art trying to get them to make me new stickers for the new signs. If anyone here has an in to Rock Art to get stickers made, like they do, please talk to me after this because I have emailed them like 5-6 times. Okay, Kyle. And as I discussed, we'll have 5 new trailer pull-through spots at that new trailhead. And here it is right here. I guess I was ahead of myself. So this is a conceptual design of the new trailhead going in at the top of 5 corners. One of the big things about this is if you've ever been up there, it's a really hard road to get up to at certain parts of the year. You can't access it from December 1st through April 15th. The gates are closed. But on top of that, this section right here, you can even see how it's trenched in here. This gets washed out and it's going to need a little bit of help. One of the biggest challenges we had with the parking lot we finished last year, the Martin's Ranch parking lot, is the vault toilet. anyone here looking at wanting to put vault toilets somewhere, if you can put in a single or even 2 singles, it's a much easier task to complete than 1 double. The doubles don't come in pieces. The upper portion of it is all one giant piece, and it weighs 30 tons, which requires a very large truck and lowboy. That does not go up poor roads very easily. So we had to hire another company, CXT. They actually attempted to deliver it. They got the truck stuck. I had to take a dozer down and pull them out. They actually high-centered the lowboy on the crown of the original road going up there. It was pretty bad. They did get the new one in, and we've decided after this point that they're like, singles are the way to go. The tops are actually in 2 halves. They don't have to worry about height restrictions. They can put them on shorter trailers. So anyone who is wanting to put in toilets, if you know where, if it's easy to get to, double, that's fine. If it's a little bit challenging, look at doing a single. So back on the discussion of decommissioning things, between roads and trails that are being decommissioned up there, one of the roads going up to an area that is notoriously known for dumping and just people leaving all kinds of trash, people getting past there when it's really wet and just destroying the road. The CXT will be going in the middle of the existing road to block that section off. We also have installed a gate behind that. So we'll have this new trailhead will serve a lot of uses. And then here's kind of an overview of what the trail system will look like at its completion. So as you can see from previous the trail maps we have on here, you can actually see what the primary purpose. So green is beginner for mountain. This is on mountain bike. Blue trails are intermediate. And then we have our 3 black trails here. This one in the middle here is not black because this is considered, it's in the future stage. But we'll have the 3 here. So you can see that there is a lot of options for people. One of the great things, and Vaughn touched on this, I live here in Wenatchee. I spend a lot of time at No2 Canyon. The amount of use at No2 Canyon I've seen since I moved here in 2017. Used to be able to go up there on a Saturday and there'd be 1 single vehicle in the parking lot at that lower parking area. Now if you go up there on a weekend, there can be 100 cars up there. The amount of people that utilize this now in this local area, as well as the most amazing thing is sit there and you'll see Montana, Idaho, Colorado, Georgia, California, Oregon. The amount of out-of-state vehicles you see up there now, it's amazing to see. The other side of that is, it's not mountain bikers. It's not just mountain bikers. As Yvonne said, we have about, I would say 50% of what is the usage up there, I would say is between trail runners and hikers, so pedestrian use, and then mountain biking use after that. So it's really great to see how this area has expanded and has really changed the way recreation is in this local area. This is back to you, Yvonne.
Sure, I'll talk to this.
I'll leave these bullets up a little bit so you can kind of absorb and maybe it'll help kind of spur some questions. But I think none of us are strangers to the challenges that the Forest Service has right now with funding. And so I think one of the reasons that we also wanted to share this message today is the Forest Service utilizes 501c3 and an enormous amount of community partners, TREAD, local businesses to keep momentum on this project going, and I think that's sort of the reality that we're dealing with from this point, at least for a little while, right? And so it's been an amazing experience for Evergreen to see this vision come to reality, and as Nick mentioned, to see the use that it's now getting. You know, as an ED at Evergreen, you're always asked by conservation groups or other trail users, how do you deal with conflict, trail conflict? Well, this is how we dealt with it. And you can design these complex, fairly dense systems that cater to multiple uses and eliminate some of the environmental or ecological issues that may have existed before. Yeah, Jared.
Yeah, just a quick question. There's seasonal restrictions, right? And there's a date between and stuff like that. Is there, like, or can you talk to that just a little bit? Like, is there, they close off use after a certain period for, is it wildlife?
Yeah, thanks for the question. The question, if you didn't hear it, is seasonal usage and wildlife closures and what we do with that.
Yeah, so No2 Canyon sits in a mule deer habitat. And because of that, one of the decisions made for us to move forward on this, and I think it was a 2016 memo, was that we restrict usage to that area from December 1st through April 15th. So all trails, recreational trails in No2 Canyon, are closed between December 1st and April 15th. The road that is the Martin's Ranch is on, it's called Horse Lake Mountain Road. It is still usable for recreational purposes through January 29th. So you can still snowshoe, fat bike, hike, ski, however you want to get up to the top of Horse Lake Mountain, you can still do that up to January 29th. And then after that, it's closed until April 15th.
Sorry, Michael is the Molly Tribe. The closure for wildlife, that's one thing that kind of got to me was, we don't call them legacy trails, and we call them legal trails if they're user-built and they're not commissioned. How do you decide when to turn these illegal trails or user trails into real trails, especially when, you know, it's a wildlife habitat? I guess there's just getting feedback from your users saying, we want trails here, and then do you do some sort of research to find out if it's, you know, going to have a huge environmental impact or not, or if it's worth the impact that it's going to bring to the area or not? Like, how do you determine those things?
Yeah, so when the concept came to fruition, the Forest Service agreed to move forward with us on this project. The phase 0 was the NEPA process. So we went through a full NEPA process with the Forest Service. All the trails were, you know, drawn up on paper, except for the 5 miles or back trails that were user-built, unsanctioned trails. And then when we walked the land with the Forest Service, it's really their call to determine whether that trail is sustainable or not, and whether they want it to be rehabbed or not. So that's how that process went. Heidi.
Yeah, you were talking about the next trailhead that's going in, having like pull through for horse trailers and that kind of thing. And I was just curious. And I know like in the past that road has been so bad that it just wasn't like conducive for, you know, equestrians to come up there with trailers and stuff. But I'm wondering, like, using modern kind of mountain bike trail design for a lot of those trails, which it certainly showcases. Like, what are the equestrians? Like, where are the equestrians? Which trails, and how is that use incorporated? And I'm just kind of curious, like, yeah, like how much, and working with the Forest Service, like how much of it was supposed to be dedicated to that use?
Yeah, from the beginning, the Forest Service, you know, this is 18 years ago, said, you know, you will have a hiker-only trail. It will be multi-use, well, designed and managed for mountain bike use. It's open to all. Your parking lots will have those accommodations. And that was 18 years ago, the very first plan. So that's been a requirement from the Forest Service from the beginning. We're just now getting to the point where we're having this question, this issue is, okay, now we're getting to the parking lot part. So it'll be interesting to see how that user group decides to partake or not partake in this area?
That's a really good question, and I mean, it's something that hasn't yet been needing to be addressed because of the condition of the road, which it sounds like you're familiar with. So now that the first part of the road is taken care of and the trailer parking is going in, we'll have to just monitor and see how that goes. I think we've learned enough with multi-use that you know, and equestrians know, right, what are the appropriate trails where shared use is fine. I think equestrians are very good at self-selecting as well, whether they have a horse that does well in multi-use situations or not. I coordinate and connect with them a lot in any of the trail projects that I've done for Evergreen to identify where multi-use was appropriate and where it wasn't. And then anytime there's a directional downhill advanced experience, it will say no horses. Because any directional trail, you know, even with hikers, going up is challenging. So those will be directional, but the horse use, yeah, that will be new now, and it's something that'll expand the use of the system. We're proud to be able to facilitate that. But how it's going to actually work and what the use patterns are going to be, I don't know.
We actually do have 2 families that live up there with stables who utilize the system already. I talked to both of them. They actually have really enjoyed the work that's went in, especially the Sundance. So they absolutely already, you know, while it's just 2 local families that live up there, it is utilized to an extent, and the feedback I've heard back from them directly is that they do like the trails that have gone in, and they do recreate there weekly.
Any other questions?
Do you all still have any unsanctioned trail building or unauthorized motor use going on? And if so, how do you deal with it? And if not, great job.
Oh, boy. So yes, there's still unsanctioned trail building going on in this county, not in this area. I think it was this year, somebody, I'm assuming they were young, teenage maybe, started building a trail right from the parking lot. I mean, as an experienced illegal trail builder, that is not how you do it. So they got about 20 feet, I think, and then like the community shut them down, right? So, and that's the thing, is the community will kind of self-police this area. Now, if you go to other parts of the forest, further away, oh, there's all kinds of motorized trails that aren't in the system. You know, every ridge line between here and Chelan has a trail on it, whether that's on the Forest Service maps or not, right? And I think that's just users have to police themselves. Forest Service doesn't have the capacity to enforce that much unsanctioned use. But when you have a community that starts to utilize a specific system, the dumping stops, the unsanctioned building stops, the community polices itself. Does that answer your question?
It does, yeah.
You know, and then Evergreen, Tread, whoever, always on the educational side, you know, please don't do this, please do this. As we get more and more signs up there, there's more opportunities for education. Hopefully we, you know, can accommodate the multi-use aspect and the potential conflicts that may or may not happen. I mean, there is a ton of people that go up there, and it is their first time in the woods. Because they feel safe, and they feel comfortable, and they've heard from other people that you can get there easily, and it's fun. So they also need to be educated. I think that helps too. In the back.
Are you finding you have a fair amount of sprinter van and other van traffic ending up in your parking lot very, very early in the morning? Maybe it's in there all night?
Not really. I'm not seeing the parking lot. I've been up there, because sometimes the only time I can make it up there to grab stuff is late in the evening. The parking lot's completely empty. The only when it's kind of up there, it's technically not allowed at the parking lot. The county land below, it's technically allowed. So the lower lot is actually on county land. It's actually part of Chelan County, and it's not illegal to camp there, from what I understand. And then there are some dispersed sites up over the top of Five Corners. Any other questions? Any other questions?
Are there any, being unfamiliar with the county land side of it, are there any planned improvements or adjustments to, let's say, the old parking lot or like that area adjacent, or not really? It's all been focused on the Forest Service side?
The county did do the road improvement up to the lower lot. Past that, I believe it's becomes Forest Service road. So like the road going up to Five Corners, Four Corners, that is Forest Service land. There's a Forest Service gate there. That's still, we're hoping more at this point that it's a kind of a field of dreams thing. If we build it, the rest will happen. It's been an ongoing discussion about that road specifically and the improvements to it since I've been in this position for the last couple of years. So, but it's constantly on the talks right now. Put me on the spot here a little.
Yeah, and that's something I'll point out real quickly is that, relationships matter. Because this is a long time coming. And the turnover with the agency is pretty fast. So you're always dealing with the new Forest Service personnel. And so having those relationships so that whoever's being replaced can say, this is a good relationship, when you take over this position, you need to keep that going. Having these long-term plans helps. Having a partnership with the county is huge. I mean, when this project first started, I would have conversations with the port, with the county, and I would be saying, outdoor recreation is an economic driver for this community. And they're like, no, it's not. It's apples and pears. That's what brings the people. And I'm like, you guys don't understand. Well, once this started to happen, everybody understood. And then you can get the tourism dollars, the heads of bed money, the LTAC money, the matching money that you need with any of the grants of RCO. We actually had a plan to have the county engineer design the road improvement for both the county road and the Forest Service road. So the Forest Service didn't have to have that burden. And the original plan was to have all those trucks just not stop at the county line and keep going. And to do that, to flat grants, federal grants, we had matching money for that, fundraising for that. But the county got ready in 6 years, and the Forest Service is not. So at some point you have to just go with the segment, and that's what we do. We'll continue to work with the Forest Service on their road improvements. We'll continue to find money. But you just have to piece this thing together, and good things happen. Any other questions? Oh.
Thanks for putting together this lessons learned slide. It's really helpful. I'm wondering if you can expand a little bit upon the ramp up before the project announcement, like aside from NEPA and just like planning, like what exactly did you find to be most effective?
It's super important that people understand that this project probably was being talked about for 4 or 5 years before it became initiated. And that's that ramp up that we never planned for. It's that ramp up that you lose when people leave. It's an unfunded part of this project. And so that's where those relationships are key and those conversations are key. And you can't just stop a project and expect that it can continue later because you have to start that ramp up again. So if a project were to be halted or stopped because of funding or whatever, you have to ramp up again, and that takes 4 or 5 years. So I think that's why that's on that slide is don't forget about the ramp up and all that work. These things don't just happen on the first meeting. Yes.
Besides, I'm guessing funding being the biggest hurdle, what was the biggest hurdle that y'all faced? Don't mind getting open-ended question. It's challenging.
The biggest hurdle was, in the beginning, was to get the Forest Service to have just enough trust to say yes, just to initiate this.
And that was that relationship building?
Yeah, right. And then the next one was, new forest supervisor comes in. Now we have to get her signature and build her trust. So it's going from the district level all the way up to forest soup level. and building that trust and those relationships, that was the biggest hurdle at first. And then you can go after them.
And then it can weather the turnover
Right.
as well.
Right.
From the Evergreen Mountain Bike Alliance perspective, as a 501c3, it's, you know, the contracting mechanism. And it was my first one that I signed for Evergreen, and we have, when we sign new contracts over a certain amount, that's with an agency we haven't signed before with. In this case, we had Forest Service agreements, but not here and not for this. So we, getting through that first part and then getting board approval, because I think from our organization, we made major commitments on financial contribution, on campaigns that we said we're gonna run with a certain target, whether you're not sure whether you're gonna make that target, right? So we made promises up front, and you know, I personally grew much more comfortable with that at first, but that was a big hurdle for us. And then, you know, it's seasonal, so you know, the staffing is always a challenge. And so again, because that upfront vision work was done with community members, and so many people are so invested in making that vision came to fruition, I think there was just so much goodwill and people wanted to be part of it, that we pulled it off. Yeah.
Netflix, there's a movie called Pedal Driven that came out when this first got started. The end of the movie is signing that first challenge cost share agreement with the forest supervisor. That's how the movie ends. But it really talks about the unsanctioned illegal trail building, the fight with the Forest Service. And if you want to see what Matt Lyons looks like 20 years ago, I'll be in it. We have to wrap up, so let's do one more.
Can you talk more about the 1,100 community members, like the unique volunteers that you had? What exactly were they doing for the duration of this project? Were they actually building the trail? Were they in construction?
Oh yeah, building trail.
They were like,
Building trail, building materials, showing up.
how did you keep them? Did they just naturally want to come back because they cared about this so much? Or I'm just always curious with like maintaining the volunteers who are able to.
Evergreen has really good trail leads that were focused on safety first, fun second, work third. And when you hold work parties that are focused in that way, people want to come back. My kids would come when they were little, would come out with me because I drug them out, and they couldn't wait to be on Al Murphy's trail team. They didn't want to be me, because he would talk about fossils and trees and educate while he was out there. They just eat it up. So I think that's what brings people back, and then always food and beer. Always. Always at the end, food and beer. It's amazing. If people have a good time, they'll come back and they'll tell their friends. Understand?
Oh, that sounds good.
Let's wrap up.
Yeah, I'll wrap up real quick, but on the volunteer aspect of it, we've had a amazing community there weekly. Like, we run weekly work parties through the late spring, through the early fall up there. So they start off as Monday night work parties in phase one, and so all of those phase one trails, those were pretty much 100% volunteer built. So whether it was from the excavator scratching it in, and then all the finishing work was done by volunteers, to Stairway to Heaven, which was hand-built trail. We showed that slide earlier of the 100-person build day. Like, we had 100 people show up, and we knocked out a half mile of finished trail that was 100%. Actually, it was over a half mile of trail. It was like 3/4 of a mile of trail.
It was insane.
That went from a flag in the ground to finished trail at the end of it. And that was to push the last bit all the way up to the lookout at the top of the Stairway to Heaven. So yeah, the volunteer aspect and the outreach we've had and the support we've had from the community here just kind of shows how much people really want it. And it's not, again, back to the original thing, like, it's not always just mountain bikers too. We have trail runners that come up there. Trail runners utilize those trails a lot up there. It's probably one of the most overlooked when it comes to pedestrian traffic, is that trail runners actually like berms because they don't have to slow down when they run, and it's actually less intensive on their knees. So we've had a lot of feedback from them recently. That's it.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks, everyone.